Thank you for joining us for this webinar today, and thank you in particular to Mohammed Galal, who's going to talk to us about improving your safety culture. Now, Mohammed works with me proactively, doing just that for many companies, but we all know that safety culture is something that develops over time. And so what he's drawing on today is his experiences when he's worked with just a few companies, but for a long time, and really got to know them well. And he's had some amazing results in this, implementing a behavioral-based safety system in one company. He got a reduction of 60% in recordable injury frequency rate in just 2 years. So some great results. And when we first met, I asked him how he'd managed to achieve these things. Now, that's the information that we're hoping to share in this webinar today. So we're going to run it in 2 parts. Firstly, Mohammed is going to give an overview of the subject, and then I'm going to go through those questions with him, and we're going to try and tease out that information. Hopefully that will prompt you to think of some things as well, and you'll be able to ask some questions right at the end. So thank you very much, and over to Mohammed.
So, hello everyone. Thank you for the chance of having here to speak to you and share my experience. Thanks, Julie, for the introduction. Thanks, Alison, for introducing me. Yeah, this is the topic which we are going to discuss today, the topic which I'm going to tell you a bit about my previous experience with it. Culture changing, the topic which keep all of us busy and keep all of us thinking how to make it better, how to shift an organization culture from one mood to another mood. Speaking about this program and the behavior-based safety program, I had experience in the past to implement this system with several companies. And here in this webinar today, I'll be reflecting this experience and tell you a bit more about what happened during the implementation phases. So our program, which is shared already and implemented in my previous career stations, contain of the we culture, how accidents happen, and what's behavior and pillars of changing behavior. So speaking on this and introducing the main idea to the organization was mainly based on the relationship between the culture and the maturity of the culture from one hand and the number of the accidents in the other hand. Of course, explaining the type of organization when it comes to safety culture and how organizations tend to act when they have accidents, and how the sense of responsibility for each and every individual work in the organization. That was always the access point to this point, and explaining why the culture is really important to help us improve our performance and to reduce the accidents in the workplace. Speaking of which, and on the way to explain more how the number of accidents and how the culture affect the situation, how in particular how behavior-based safety is a focal part here. Usually there is a lot of debate about the permits of the Heinrich permits for accidents and the statistical relation between them. Nonetheless, I've seen, based on my experience, that the more qualified and good observation we get, it's really turned to prove the pyramid and turned to see that yes, we have lots of good observation which ring the bell for a certain deficiency in our system or the way we handle things at the workplace, consequently lead us to more related solutions which help really achieving our objectives. That's all, okay, the access point to this. And usually when we come implementing this program and coming to the point of how accidents happen, there are lots of opinion about this and lots of other causes and so on. But nonetheless, I still prefer to focus on this Swiss model cheese, which you see here on the screen. That yeah, we as an organization, we try to put defenses in place, and we try all the time to update our procedures and make it up to date and make it actually reflecting our current situation in the workplace and also the organizational culture. We try to do it perfectly all the time. That's a continuous process, non-stop process. But yeah, as a matter of fact, holds will be there all the time. And in order to make sure that the holds are closed, we usually hire and make sure that we have competent person for each discipline and function. Competent person for scaffolding, competent person for welding operation, competent person for lifting operation, and so on for all the functions and actions and the activities which we do it in the workplace. But it's all the time having this question: are competent people or persons appointed will be fully attending their activities and fully focusing on making sure that these holes are not aligned together at one point? They do, but sometimes that's not the case. And then they get aligned and then we have an accident in the workplace. People usually, when we present this program and come to this point, start to ask questions: how we make sure that they are competent, how we make sure that they are really the right ones in the right place, how we make sure that they have the right training in place. And of course, we have definitely the answers for these, because we have to make sure that, or I had to make sure when I present this program, that things make sense for everyone in the training room, which usually coming from different functions in the organization. So therefore, we try to go a little bit in detail in what kind of training we do for those group of people, to those competent person, what kind of qualification we need to have for those competent people before we appoint them to guard and to observe these defenses which we have in place. Of course, the program contained also an example of an accident, which was a fatal accident. And the root cause for this accident was purely the behavior of the person who was killed in the accident, unfortunately, of course. I'm pretty sure that everyone in the call will have at his workplace 1 or 2 or 3, maybe more, of these kind of examples, accidents which the root cause was purely a behavior thing. In this case, which here I'm presenting on the screen, there was 2 guys in one of the plants making a walk around, and after they finished the walk around, one of them decided to cut corner and to jump over the handrail, which you see on the left side, to go earlier to his tea break. Then he didn't know that the roof was fragile over there, and it was really needed to have some repair work end to end. And it ends up that the guy fell like 33 meters from the roof to the ground, and of course killed on the spot. So I personally was involved in this in the investigation of this accident in one of my previous employment. And what was really dramatic, and that usually have also this dramatic feeling, reaching out to the people, the attendees of the program, that the girlfriend of the guy who was killed, she was pregnant. Most of the people, they're not aware of such details. So the people at work, they know that, yes, we had an accident at this place. The accident was dramatic. Someone was killed, and. But when I go through the details with the attendees of the program and explaining for them why it was behavior-related thing, why the behavior played a focal role here for this accident take place, I usually see lots of surprised faces around the room, which is real here, and which is also pointing out how important it is to carry on with our behavior-based safety program. And as a next point, which need to be discussed in this program, we usually discuss the behavior, what make us behave in a certain way. In this regard, I usually refer to this diagram here, and this chart, which showing that when our slips and lapses which happen, all right, are coming from deep inside ourselves, and they come from inside ourselves because usually we have an intention to do something, a plan to do something at work, to fix the beam over there, to paint this column, to untie this valve and reinstall it again, and or whatsoever. And unconsciously, we get these questions: the gap between me and what I need to achieve, and the outcome which I need to achieve, and the power or the skills or the know-how which I have, which allow me or qualify me to do this kind of task. The answers of these questions for every one of us, for everyone in the workforce, is different, because we are not the same. We didn't have the same management in the past. We don't have the same culture. We didn't have the same past experience, and a long list of factors which affect our perception to things. And we answer these questions based on our perception. Normally, attendees in these programs love this slide so much because they have lots of points to mention here and lots of examples to share it within the training, which prove that, yeah, this is how we think just seconds or milliseconds before we turn to do certain action in the workplace. Having said so, and understanding the behavior come from our perceptions and previous experience and so on, and also taking into account that 90% of the accidents are caused by behaving at risk, and this mismatch and also the other factors make everyone on the training believe that, yes, this is the way we want to go. This is the thing, we need to control it and to capture it and see how we can really improve it. It's from my experience, I think this is the point where everyone, okay, the first point when they come to the training, they start to think, okay, another safety training. And then when we explain the behavior thing and how it's formulated and how people behave in a certain way, and how much percentage of the accident behavior is a usual suspect in this kind of accident, they start a mind-changing point here. Of course, I'm not trying to say it's 100% change on the mindset, because this takes a long time. I believe everyone on the call knows this, but it's the point where they start to think, oh yes, behavior, it's something really we need to tackle and we need to work with it. And here's the point. We have a good behavior program. We get people positively contributing and having an active part in influencing our safety of the workplace. And here, normally it's the entry where we need to talk about the drivers of the behavior. What drives a certain behavior? It's usually this results out and the outcome which I want to achieve, and the perception, the values which I have it within myself, which make me behave in a certain way. And here comes the point to explain for the program attendees that these are the 6 pillars which we use to change the behavior. All right, management commitment, which make full sense, and raising the awareness, making the observation, and having feedback to our colleagues at work, then highlighting the consequences, and definitely measuring all these things and having an accurate measurement tool which allow us to learn of our previous experiences. So we all know that without the management commitment, nothing will get done over there. The change starts from the top and goes down to everyone. So that's the way forward for it. And definitely I would like, usually speaking on this slide, to highlight for especially these programs which were mostly attended by head of departments, board members, head of sectors, and so on, to highlight for them how important is your leading by example when you go to the walk down and the site, when you make a business visit to one of the subsidiaries in one of the branches, and you speak about the quality, you speak about the progress, you speak about that contract, and just drop it in the safety, how really this would affect, and how you're dealing and talking about the safety factors is really affecting the situation. It was, from my perspective, it was very focal, and my experience with this most of attendees who are not from the top management like this slide so much as well, because they see on their day-to-day life some of the top bodies from the organization which are not best example for promoting safety. Awareness, and the usually the coming back from this slide and the feedback I hear from the people about this slide, that yeah, this means a lot of training for us, this means that we need to do this more hours and hours of training and awareness and but yeah, as a matter of fact, you need to have efficient number of awareness hours and topics and modules which make you aware of what you're doing, and also highlight for you and for everyone what are the safe behaviors which we need to have it. And if these safe behaviors are not highlighted, are not well communicated, then yeah, we are just not in the right direction. And making the observation, which is the most debatable part here, especially from the attendees of these programs, that they come to this part and they have questions already in mind. They have like a comment. Do I really need to go there and say that my colleague, Joe and Mohammed, Tom, whoever the name, did this or that, and so on? I faced this question in every single time I did this training, and I'm speaking here, or my focus here today is to speak about my experience with two particular organizations which I've done this program with them, and no single training without this kind of question. And here it comes to the point where I need to explain for the attendees more the spirit of this program is to point the problem, not the person who's doing the problem. Even some of them in the beginning, they were of the idea, yeah, so where should I write the name of the person who was doing the at-risk behavior? And of course, they were not aware that there is the name of the person who was observed. We don't have a field for it. You don't write it on the observation because it's not in our interest to know that X did that or this. Our main issue here, the target is to know what is the problem itself and how we can really improve the situation and how we can be objective in these cases and get more of these observations to understand. And that's the part of the measuring and analysis, which I will come to it later. So the feedback, because when you see something on the shop floor or in the workshop or in the construction site, it might not be the right course of action to just write an observation and push it through the system till it reaches the safety department, and then they take the action and assign the action for the person end. It might be the best course of action that you go directly and make a direct feedback to the person you're talking with. And that was very interesting part, because another surprising fact when I carry on this program, that lots of people believe that, oh my God, I go and talk to my colleague and tell him, yeah, you did this wrong, you did this, you should not do it. And I kind of saw that some people, they don't adopt the right mindset when they have this kind of conversation. They tend to speak like the sound from above or something like this. And one of the good things, which I've seen it here, that it was very easy to flip it. No, you don't need to speak like this. You need to adopt more the team spirit, that you care for your colleague. You need to be having a complete discussion, objective, stay positive, and these kind of advices, which really help the people. In many cases, when we carried on this program, we needed to have a full actual demonstration of people giving each other feedback, just to let them feel the difference between having a negative approach or having a positive approach. And attendees like this so much because they can really get the way they think about it and furniture for everyone. And yeah, later on they receive comments, yeah, you need to speak on this tone, not in this tone, and. but it was really a fine and good part for them to see how would be the best way, the proper way to communicate and make a feedback. And then the consequences. Explaining also that consequences are the one of the main drivers for our acts and behaviors. So you do things because you know that you get rewarded, or you don't do things because you don't get disciplinary action, or you may get an injury, which is more difficult than having just a disciplinary action. This is very focal also to communicate to people and to show them that, yeah, their actions or their behaviors or these situations will have a consequences, which might be positive or negative. So with this kind of explanation, with this kind of approach, I drove this program in 2 different organizations from 2 different maturity levels, speaking here about the Bradley curve and the categories and the types of organization. And it was very interesting seeing how each organization reacted with this program and how it was adding to their safety performance excellence and the result and the outcome after the implementation of which. Yeah, and the measuring and analysis, this is the vehicle where I collect the numbers, see the trends, understand where is our areas for improvement and what we need particularly to improve, what kind of training, what kind of, maybe we need to change the procedure, maybe these measuring showing that we have a lack of supervision, maybe we have less numbers, and so on. Normally, the point here, which I would love to communicate to everyone from the attendees, that as long as we're keeping the measuring and analysis, your observations and so on will be the light which show us where to go in the next steps. And simply that was the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. That was very interesting. Right, I have some questions here from you might remember from when we first met. You talked about management commitment and how important it is. You then went on and described an incident which was a fatal incident. So, you know, we're aware that when that sort of thing happens, it does drive companies forward and they start paying more attention to health and safety. But the real question is, how do you get that attention? How do you get that commitment without having the fatality, without having the serious incident?
So safety performance is not only based on fatalities, it's also based on the number of accidents and recorded accidents and how severe these accidents are. And I have to say here also that the overall worldwide interest in having better safety at the workplace and having the safety figures and performance always reviewed from the top of the organization nowadays is really facilitating driving such program through the organization. So I would say, yeah, definitely having a fatality or severe accident at the work would really make the organization think deeply and faster to implement such a program. Nonetheless, the other organizations which they don't have a fatality at the time being, and I wish they don't have, also have their own issues, all right, regarding the safety performance and how they improve it and how they can really reach a world-class safety standards. Explaining, or the point where you get really people to be convinced, is explaining the Swiss cheese model and how our procedure policies could be really good, but we need also to make sure that the mindset of each and everyone in the organization is on the same direction, is aware about the importance of the safety. Switching the mindset from, yes, I work in this organization and I have to be safe, to, yes, we work in this organization and we all need to be safe and we all need to get back safe to our families. That was the vehicle which helped me driving this also for some other organization.
Okay, so you get organizations at different levels of maturity for health and safety. Some have been doing it a long time and their employees probably have a very good understanding of where the risks are and what they should be doing about it, and others are just starting. Can you tell us a bit about what was the level of awareness when you implemented these programs, and how did you tackle getting a better level of understanding about this is a safe behavior, this is an unsafe behavior?
I would like first, okay, to thank the attendee who placed this question. This is really a very focal to the point question here. It's a key element, the quality of the observation and how people can assess the risk at the workplace and define where is the problem, what I need to do, what is the preventive measures I need to apply to this situation or to any activity to make sure it's going safe. One of the surprises which happened once during an implementation process, that we asked the people to, please, can you do a simple risk assessment for a simple lifting operation? And the results and the different views was very surprising, I have to say this. So back to the question, the level of awareness is a backbone for this program. If people are not aware of how to identify the hazard and how to assess the risk in an appropriate level, then you will get lots of observations which is irrelevant to the thing, which I would describe it. This is something which comes with the package. We have to be ready for it. Okay, and we were ready for it. We know that not everyone is having the same level of awareness, not skillful in making risk assessment in a proper way where we can get the benefit out of it at the end of the day. And this only goes away when we have round and round of training and improvement. When I say round and round of training, because don't get me wrong, I don't mean a lot of hours in this, but practicing and having an active part in the risk assessment and so on help definitely receiving at the end of the day a good observations, which is the backbone of this program.
Mm-hmm. So there's two sides. There's the understanding what the safe behaviors are, but when you come to implement this program, you get different sort of training. So training how people will use the system, how they will talk to each other, how they will give the feedback. Did you have to give any specific training on how to implement this program?
Definitely, yeah. I personally drove the implementation of this program in 2 different organizations, and it needed that we go with this program and present it and make people familiar with it to each construction site most of the time, because let's not forget that in a company which work in a construction, you have a lot of people working for the contractors and not working for the same for the client and for the same organization where you work. So we needed also that everyone get the information about the behavior-based safety and understand the theory behind it. So and then we could do further training regarding hazard spotting and risk assessment, which goes hand in hand with this training as well. So the answer is yes, training and implementing or introducing this program via training is definitely the way forward for it.
Okay, so it's very easy when there's been an incident or when you spot something to blame people rather than to blame the system. How did you stop this happening? How did you stop the blame?
That wasn't really easy. I can remember very well during my working in one of the organizations, we had an LTI accident, and the person who was injured in this accident, the organization was just to reflect something here. Okay, so that organization, if you remember very well, speaking about the Bradley curve and these kind of 3 types of organization, they were of the first. So they don't have a system, and then when they have an accident, they think, okay, what course of action should we do? So they were from this type. So we had that LTI at one of the plants, and they wanted, in the middle of the investigation, to highlight that we need to have a disciplinary action for the injured person. So it was like yeah, for me it was like a shock. Really, do you now leave the investigation, understand what's the reasons behind such a dramatic situation we're having right now, and go and make a disciplinary action for the person who's already laying in the hospital. So it was really something very surprising to me, but showing the negative effect of this opinion to apply this kind of disciplinary action for the injured person in an LTI, that was the way where I managed to convince the people around the table back then that this is not the right course of action, rather that this will give a very negative message about the management and their intention in this point. We want to keep our focus on improving the safety, not giving disciplinary actions to those who did some sort of violations.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm not saying also, I'm sorry, I'm not saying as here that we disciplinary actions are not welcome. They are welcome and they're must, but we have to see also the effect of this on our safety performance.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you also talked about when you were giving the trainings that people were wary about writing observations. They didn't want to say things that they could get into trouble for, or might cause a delay in the contract or something. Do you think it should be possible for observations to be anonymous? Do you think that would encourage more people to report? I'm thinking particularly in the construction sector, for example, where you've got contractors and you want to encourage everyone to be able to make these sort of observations. But would a contractor really say something if they think that then it's going to delay the project, they're going to be labeled a troublemaker, you know, it might not go well for their future? I mean, we'd all like to think that everyone wanted to see these observations, but I can imagine at a certain level, you know, maybe some of the supervisors actually would prefer not to see that sort of thing. Do you think it should be possible to report anonymously?
Well, it is always possible to report anonymously. That won't jeopardize the program and the progress, and will not really have a big effect on the reaching the objective. But think of one thing. So think of one point. People make these kind of observation, and as a human being, they want to get not a reward. They want to see the effect of what they did. Am I really taking an active part? I make an observation that that scaffold in this place was not really in the good place, not inspected, for example. And in the next few hours, on the next day, oh, someone is there and is inspecting. So the message which I get immediately is, wow, I'm really an active part. My opinion and my observation matter and do affect the situation. So we still, some places wanted to have, or some organization wanted to have it anonymous. But explaining this and explaining that, the more we let the people know that their opinion and their observation is really having an effect on the reality, will encourage them to do more observation and will encourage them to have more quality observation, which is also very much important to this program to get the objective out of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think one of the fears that we all have is if you start a program like this and you say, tell me your problems, tell me when you see something that you think isn't right, that you're opening the floodgates and you're going to get a huge number of low grade observations. I'm thinking things like, I don't like the color of the carpet, it makes me feel sick. This kind of, you know, you could get all sorts of that sort of thing. How do you, and the problem is that once the observation comes in, you have to do something with it, otherwise you lose confidence in the system. So how do you manage to encourage people to make high quality observations rather than the low quality ones?
So we have to, when we start with the observation phase of this program, we definitely get a lot of non-related observations which is related, as you just said, the color of the carpet, they're not toilet paper somewhere and this kind of things. We get it, but it comes with the package anyway. It's our reality. That reality is, yeah, our reality here, that the people who work in a certain place, in a certain organization, they don't have the right level of awareness about the risk and hazard and what should be included in their observation and what should not, and how to write a quality observation which is really useful, and how to write something which is, yeah, not really adding on. So I get back to this, and I said all the time, or I say all the time, that this is a non-stop process. We do the program, we start receiving the observation. In the beginning, you might see the ratio that you get, just for example, or for just to see it, you get 30% of important observation, which is really adding on and helping to improve the situation on the workplace, and you get 70% of nonsense stuff. By the time we go further in the training, and those who make a good one see the outcome, and those who are sending non-related observations, when they go in further training and further awareness and see the outcome of this, the percentage turned to be twisted the other way around. But we will always have these non-relevant observation, of course, because not everyone is having the same level of understanding of the things. But awareness is also a key element here.
Mm-hmm. Did you have a scheme where you were rewarding good observations?
Not really, not very official, but at least these observations, which were, I remember very well that one observation at one place helped us to prevent an accident, all right, and it helped us to prevent an accident related to lifting operation. And definitely we have to call the person who wrote this observation, and to thank him for this and encourage him, and we made him talk to his colleague about it, so we get more of these observations. But we didn't actually reward someone in this. But I would, if you ask me, I would say definitely this would be a very important thing to add. It will encourage more people to do more quality ones.
And recognition. I think when you talked about the feedback part of it, then getting that recognition is a reward. But you know, I've worked with companies that have different reward schemes. I particularly liked the one where you reward not making an observation, but actually what we're trying to do is give people ownership, and then they can make the observation, but they can also fix it themselves. And it's that closing the loop and having that ownership that they were rewarding, and that was extremely successful, rather than just getting large volumes of notifications.
I would say, sorry, yeah, I would say definitely rewarding those who interfered with an unsafe act and corrected the situation over there, or corrected or give a good feedback to the person who's doing the unsafe act, is definitely very important point here, an aspect. Because yeah, I remember in some other sites I worked in my early career, and we had back then also some behavior-based safety programs. They used to make some small presents to those who really took an active part and do this. And yeah, every one of us know exactly that this is very focal and helping the continuous improvement of the safety performance.
Okay, there's a lot of questions here now, so I'm going to keep going. How do you measure behavior? Thank you, Robin.
To measure behavior, we measure two things. We measure how much it's repeated and what is the severity of it. It's more or less something like the risk assessment. So you get an idea how many people at the workshop they were spotted not wearing their safety glasses, and that we get it from the observations. We get it on the system. I'm not sure. Okay, the question from Robin was it the actual way? Do we have to count them, or how we handle these behaviors? But yeah, the observation usually spot on what was the observation. Is it an at-risk behavior, or was unsafe situation, and was it a good behavior? And of course, when they write about their comment about the unsafe situation, then they also indicate that yes, that need an urgent action, and that's of course for things which are more serious. Speaking of the medium, okay, where we use to measure it, I had two different experiences. One in one organization, we were using just block notes and writing the observation with handwriting, which was a bit of too much work for those who manage the system to get and extract this observation, put it in an Excel sheet, and start following up with these actions. In another organization, it was a bit digitalized, where the observation gets recorded via mobile app, and then the get into the system, and then the system managed to get some statistics and bar charts showing the trends and so on. I hope this answered the question.
Okay, I hope so too, Robin. Right, from John. In the tragic example with the fatality, you said that it was purely a behavioural issue. An injury is almost always a system failure plus a human error. Can you say it was purely behaviour?
Let me say it this way: if there is a behavior issue, it's still the system, by the way. Somehow so the system which allow a person, all right, to adopt such a behavior at the work is a system which need to be improved. And this is my own point of view about it, or this is my own theory about it. Yes, it's behavior is always there, but yeah, it goes hand in hand also that the system allows such behavior to take place at the workplace.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So again from Robin, as culture is an emergent property of the organization, how do you deal with the fixed mindsets of top management who, in the best intention, claim they will set a positive safety culture and are then disappointed when it doesn't happen?
Yeah, well, consistency of the message and continuity of the message, and fixing the same tone all the time, speaking about the safety positively. You might have, okay, the buy-in from most of the management, and there are always 2-3 guys somewhere, okay, they are not really up to this mindset. But I believe it takes time that they switch their mind, and it's not only time, it takes also lots of explanation, lots of debates and discussion showing the pros and cons of this kind of approach. I had personally experience with one plant manager in my previous job, and he was totally against all this kind of things. Yes, there are the procedures, let the people follow it. Who doesn't follow the procedure, get a disciplinary action, and that's it. So at certain point, when everyone else play a different tone and he stands alone with his point of view, and with more explanation and talking and confrontation and helping these things to be clear, I guess at the end of the day, we managed to get the buy-in of this kind of mentality. But they will always be there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So Alberto asks, based on your experience, how do you handle the use of mobile in certain sites where the use of mobile is not allowed by site internal policy? Some regulatory frameworks in Europe do not allow the use of a mobile on site for safety purposes.
Yes, there are lots of restrictions regarding to use of mobile in the workplace, but not for every function, not for every position. In these cases, to make things are much more reachable and accessible by everyone, we managed to place like a computer station somewhere, just very simple, just for the observation, something like well, there was a say that let's make it like a tablet somewhere in the production area, but yeah, we have to think also of the how the people will reach this and how much distance between their workstation and the place where they can go make the observation. And at all cases, we have all the time functions and personnel working there with a company mobile, which is definitely include the application for it. But this is really a challenging point.
Yeah, I mean, you can get intrinsically safe devices, and I've seen lots of sort of safe zones within the production area where people go to do this sort of thing. Yes, yeah, and I guess always asking the question before people start off: are you safe to make this report? Because you don't want to be introducing risk into the workplace. I love this question. Yeah. So I've got a, can you get a culture where people are happy to put their, and I presume this is their own names, to report their own safe behaviours? I hope I've said this question properly because I added the owns. So do you think people are prepared to self-diagnose and make a observation about themselves?
In short answer, people, yes, they are ready for this, but it takes time to change the mindset that they are able to criticize or assess their own approaches and actions and say, yes, I do this, and I come to the safety expert and talk with him. How can I do this in a better way? I usually think of this topic and I don't know how to really to handle it in a better way. It takes time, but I have to say that in the last one of my career stations, which I had, it was 2 years working with one organization, which we worked in the automotive industry, and they were in a complete turnaround for the entire safety system and the safety culture and so on. In the beginning, it was so much resistance, and I've seen shortly before I leave this organization, that people, not so much, of course, little number really, start to come and discuss things about their own process and their own method statement of doing the work and how to get this safe. Or someone come, hey, I have this point by my work and I don't really feel it's safe enough. So it's happening, but it takes time, consistency, and we have to make sure that everyone in the organization is rowing in the same direction.
Okay. With regards to giving feedback, this is from Astrid. I presume you start with just doing it to get people used to the concept. How do you get them to move from quantity to quality? Any tips? This is, I guess, maybe of actually the feedback. So the quality of the feedback. Now, I think we all have first-hand experience of, I don't know, you're doing something that and someone comes along and tells you to do it differently, and you feel quite insulted by what they're saying. You know, how they present that feedback is so important to get a positive outcome. Do you have any tips for this?
Yeah, of course. When we found this irrelevant observations and this feedback, so speaking about the observation and the feedback, so the observation and how the people learn how to make better observation, we do a feedback, all right, process for this. And of course, we don't mention the names, but we speak about the observation where they don't mention the exact location. We speak about the observation which is not objective in describing the situation, and so on. Speaking on the feedback itself, yeah, we had in some of the workshops which we had a play. So people act as they are doing something at work, and someone else come and practice their feedback skills with them, with 2 or 3 guys just observing this demonstration and comment on it. People with a mindset of, no, I don't want anyone to criticize them, to criticize me, myself, again, they will be all the time there around. But as the more we go further and make better feedback qualities and make better observation qualities, the more this kind of mindset get less and less in the organization.
Okay. The system is driven and implemented by people. So how can a system be the reason for an unsafe behavior?
How can be the system the reason for unsafe behavior? Yeah, there are I'm not sure exactly about the question, but yeah, let me try. So the system which is not making sure that it's easy to implement, it's covering all details, it's updated, it's tackling the people understanding, then this system is having a problem. So the system is not necessarily just a couple of procedures on the SharePoint and instructions and so on. The system also how those people react to these things, how really they get these things communicated to them, and is this communication, is the mean of communication effective enough that people will start to understand where they need to improve themselves or not. So yeah.
I agree with you that if you have a system that isn't effective, then people take shortcuts. You know, they always think, oh, we can do it slightly better by doing, and they're no longer following the system. So we've seen with DECA sort of work as done work versus work as perceived to be done. It's often quite different. So I guess the trick is that we're trying to develop a system that people find it being a good way of working. You know, it's safe and it's efficient and it's effective. And then particularly if they've been part of developing that system, then they're much less likely to have those deviations. And perhaps it's those deviations that we're calling the unsafe behaviors here in this question.
I wanted also to add something, Alison, in this regard. I was in a discussion with a safety manager for a great big company in the food industry. That was last week. And during the discussion, we came across the system and the procedures and so on. And I was kind of, wow, interested to hear from him that within the company, they're trying right now to take away these kind of safe working procedure and safety policies and so on, and try to minimize it to the minimum thing. They want to go more visual, and they want to go more easy to digest. They want to be more modern and to make it something more and this will, I like actually the approach, though it might be not doable for each and every aspect of our system and procedure, but it's coming hand in hand with the fact that we are in 2020 right now, 2022, and everything is going digital, everything is going more simple, though the life gets complicated, but we still have the chance to simplify our procedure and policies and make it more digestible for everyone in the workforce.
Yeah, okay. Fear of loss influences human decisions more than expectations of gain. That's very true. Don't you think that educating people on mastering what if by focusing on the why will help people to picture the potential negative consequences?
If I get the question right, so focusing on the why, I mean focusing on why people do a certain behavior and why things need to be done in a certain way. These are the two whys which I've seen here in this question, and why people behave in a certain way, and asking the people when we have the chance during a feedback discussion with someone and understanding why he did this in a certain way would definitely help us to understand what we need to improve, which point we need to tackle, rather than having, people were not wearing a safety glasses. Okay, thank you. And then what's next? At some cases, you find out that they work in a very hot work environment, and having the safety glasses make them really sweat more and more, and then they needed to get it off to clean it, and then because of the gloves and the things, it's not really convenient, and so you reach the source of the problem here. And this is quite helpful to have this why, so I understand also where I need to go or how to make it work.
Yeah, I would also add to that it's a two-sided approach. Yes, we can spot hazards and negative observations, but I think it's so important to do the positive ones as well. We're not trying to scare people into working safely. We're trying to encourage them that we can learn from good practice by identifying and rewarding good practice, and we can in a positive direction rather than sort of rolling backwards towards the negatives that happen, and the sort of scare tactics and the stick tactics. I think a big part of safety culture is trying to change that mindset.
Yes, of course. Yeah, the more we spot the good behaviors, and the more we spot the positive approaches, the more people in the workplace will realize, yeah, this is good. Then I need to do it this way. Then okay, next time I do this job, I'll do it with this kind of steps. And those who observe, right, and when they see this and it's get communicated, even it's more effective when they communicate it to each other at the workplace than when they get communicated from the management as well, and it's more reliable from them. Yeah.
I'll bring it to an end then. So thank you very, very much everyone for joining. Thank you for your questions, and thank you, Mohammed, for sharing your experiences with us and for answering all those questions. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks a lot for the attendees, for everyone there. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. And Julie, thank you for hosting it. So Julie's disappeared. She's still there?